So we are naming this as a Haversian system. Haversian system. So we'll locate the Haversian system first of all. So try to locate the bigger bone, the long bone. Here it is a long bone. Okay, so then there are two layers here. That bone is covered by periosteum and endosteum. So this is periosteum and this is endosteum. So that we just talked about earlier, periosteum and endosteum. So let me label that periosteum. Okay, so then this is endosteum. Periosteum and endosteum are made up of irregular, dense, fibrous connective tissue. So between the periosteum and endosteum, the Haversian system is present. Haversian system, a system which can provide the nourishment to the tissues, that tissues of this area. Let me change the color where you can understand much better doing with red color. Okay. So that is Haversian system. Location, where the location, there I made labeling. So that means between the periosteum and endosteum, Haversian system is present. So now let's move to the Haversian system. Okay, so the remaining everything that we know that this is the epiphysis that we discussed earlier, epiphysis, and here it is metaphysis, the growth line, growth plate, and now we are in diaphysis. Diaphysis or shaft, where the bone is so strong. So why it is so strong, that we need to see here, that by structure of Haversian system there you will understand that also. Okay, now Haversian system, that between periosteum and endosteum, periosteum and endosteum, periosteum, then endosteum. So I drawn that area, just we did that this area. Okay, so this area showing in microscope. So below the periosteum, lamella, the bony material along with empty spaces, you'll find here that we call it as the circumferential lamella. Above the endosteum also, we'll find the circumferential lamella. Circum, that means surround. That means I am showing a piece. You need to understand in three-dimensional view on the total bone, that surround the bone, you'll find this kind of thing. Okay, so what is this? Periosteum. This is outer circumferential lamella, and this is inner circumferential lamella, and this is endosteum. So labeling is important here. If we are able to label, that you can write everything. So that's why be careful here. So this is periosteum. Okay, so below the periosteum, outer circumferential lamella. Outer circumferential lamella. Next, here it is. Inner circumferential lamella. Inner circumferential lamella. Okay. Next, this is endosteum. So for your understanding, I am writing here, I am showing here, this is marrow cavity. Marrow cavity which is filled with yellow bone marrow. That's what I said to you now. This is the marrow cavity. To understand the location, we are making here also the marrow cavity. Okay, so that where we are exactly, that you can understand. Okay, in between them, in between the outer circumferential lamella and inner circumferential lamella, whatever present, that we call interstitial lamella. That is said to be interstitial lamella. So we are labeling that as interstitial lamella. Okay, so this is interstitial lamella. So that everything is ready for Haversian system. To understand the Haversian system, in the interstitial lamella, that we have Haversian system. The Haversian system is present in the interstitial lamella. So let me show you that in each Haversian system, we'll find Haversian canal. The Haversian canals are present here. So these Haversian canals are surrounded by the concentric rings. Okay, so like this, the concentric rings. So let me show you. These are the Haversian system, we can say. Okay, Hmm, here it is. This is the Haversian canal. Each Haversian canal is surrounded by the concentric rings. We say that lacunae are getting arranged in the form of series. Let me draw first, then after I'll show you that lacunae, empty spaces. In the cartilage also we said the empty spaces are called lacunae. The 4 to 5 Haversian circles like this, that what I am drawing, that is Haversian canal surrounded by many concentric rings. Okay, so in between the concentric rings, whatever present, that is even interstitial lamella. Okay, so then in these, then how these particular rings are present? These are actually the rows of that circular rows of lacunae. The blue which I am drawing, that is lacunae. In the lacunae, in each lacunae, one osteocyte is present, as usual with the previous. Osteocyte inactive, osteoblast active. Osteocyte means inactive, osteoblast, that means the blue I'm drawing here. So that blue one is lacunae, you should understand. So what lacunae contain? The lacunae contain the cells called osteocytes. In each lacunae, that osteocytes are present here. Active form of the osteocytes is osteoblast. During growing ages, that osteoblasts are helpful for the increase in the growth of the bone. The length and weight of the bone will be possible by osteoblast. Then after, in the fully grown bone, that means when we reach to a certain age, osteoblast will reach into the stage called osteocyte. We can become inactive and they become osteocyte. Inactive osteocyte. Whenever some breakdown or bone fracture or something else, whatever happened, a damage to the bone, that osteocytes again become they active. Again, they become active and they become osteoblast and respect fill that particular gap. We know that as ossification. We use it to say. So let me label this as osteocyte. You should understand that is in active form. Where does the osteocytes are present? That lacunae, that they are present in the lacunae. So need to locate the lacunae also. That empty spaces are called lacunae. Each lacunae contain that osteocytes. I should fill some more, isn't it? This is the area. These are also. It's like this, like this. So drawing a diagram on the glass surface is comparatively little difficult in compare with the board. So I hope you understand what I am saying. So that's it. This is lacunae. Okay, so let me draw the Haversian system clearly to you. Only Haversian system. In the next diagram. Okay, we'll draw the only Haversian system. Okay, so this is in the center. Haversian canal. Each Haversian canal surrounded by the concentric rings of bone lamella. That in the interstitial lamella, these kind of concentric rings are present. So I'm going slow that because this is that much important that issue in both IP examination and as well as in Neet examination. So now what I am drawing? So I am trying to show you the empty spaces. Actually, there is no black line. These empty spaces are only arranged in the form of concentric rings like this. They are arranged in a surround the Haversian canal. They surround the Haversian canal, they get arranged. Lacunae, you can see. So where do you see this kind of Haversian systems? Haversian systems are present between the periosteum and endosteum. Okay, so in between these black lines, whatever the white present. What do you call this as? That everything is interstitial lamella. You need to understand that is interstitial lamella. What is interstitial lamella? Bony material. What it contains? Collagen fibers and the calcium phosphate. The major component is the calcium phosphate here. Okay, so let me draw the lacunae is over. That blue one I drawn lacunae. Now each lacunae contain osteocyte. Each lacunae contain osteocyte. Osteocyte, as we said now, that is the inactive form. So when they become active, we call osteoblast cell. The similar way, from the beginning, we are following this tempo. Fibroblast, active. Fibrocyte, inactive. In case of areolar connective tissue. That like chondroblast, that is active. Chondrocyte, inactive. So then now even in the bone, in Haversian system, I are using the same word. Osteoblast, osteoblast, active, osteocyte, inactive. But we are labeling it as now osteocyte. Why? That because this is inactive. So when the time comes, when any damage or breakdown. So that means when time comes, they become active again, they become osteoblast. During growing phases, we can expect more osteoblasts are present. The fully grown. So these are lacunae. The blue one, lacunae. Okay, so this is lacunae and this is interstitial lamella. The total, that is interstitial lamella, filled with the calcium phosphate and collagen fibers. Okay, then in the center we'll find Haversian Canal. Haversian Canal. Okay, so that let me show you the Haversian Canal, the red in the center. Haversian Canal. What it contain? It contain a blood vessel, artery, a vein, a lymph vessel, a nerve fiber. That means you need to understand the Haversian Canal is supplying food to the that particular cells from the Haversian Canal through small branches or canals. We say canaliculi. These canaliculi are going to supply the nourishment to the total. That means one each other they are connecting from Haversian Canal, that all these are connected each other, and from here the nourishment will go on. You should imagine this. There is a hole in the center and there are small holes around. So this hole is connected with all the holes with the help of small canals. Likewise, you need to understand. Okay. So that Haversian system meant for to supply the nourishment. To supply the nourishment, this Haversian system is there. Okay. So this Haversian system in the center, it contains Haversian canal surrounded by many concentric rings, 3 to 5. Concentric rings are present in the interstitial lamella. So what they are present in the rings, that will find the lacunae, empty spaces. Empty spaces, lacunae contain osteocyte. Inactive form of that form it is, it will become active. We call it as osteoblast whenever it is necessary. The Haversian canal contain artery and a vein, lymph vessel. That means vascularization done here in Haversian canal. So from here, from Haversian canal to the total Haversian system, that what the nourishment is going to be supplied over with the help of smaller branches. What do you call the branches as? The branches are called as canaliculi. The branches are said to be canaliculi. Okay, so they are called canaliculi. Canal, the smaller branches of canal are called as canaliculi. So let me go with proper spelling. So that's it, canaliculi. So this is one Haversian system. One Haversian system. So many are present here. So many are present here. Let me go with the two I drawn earlier, isn't it? So there are so many Haversian systems can be expected over in this particular area. That many Haversian systems are present. I'm showing one Haversian system clearly. So that now I think I can erase this. Or let me draw some more else here. So one more Haversian system like this. So like this, Haversian system, so many are present. So we need to see here also, isn't it? So what exactly, where exactly? So that is transverse section, what we are seeing. This is the original one. That in longitudinal view, you can see like this. These are all, let me, so these are Haversian canals like this. So these Haversian canals are surrounded by our said concentric rings, lacunae, everything. Then all these Haversian canals are connected by a canal we call Volkmann's canal. Let me show you here. All the Haversian canals are connected by a single canal, that what do you say? Volkmann's canal. Yeah. So this is Volkmann's canal, which actually the Volkmann's canal only having connection with all these Haversian canal, supplying of the blood. Main office you have to understand. A narrow Volkmann's canal is there, which is supplying this particular nourishment to all. Okay. So what is the speciality actually? What is the speciality? So let us remind once our that cartilage in the transverse section of cartilage. We said both are belongs to the supporting tissue. Both are supporting, both are endoskeleton portion. But we have cartilage in some places of the body. Our major endoskeleton is bone, isn't it? Our major endoskeleton is bone. But some of our ancestors, that means in lower vertebrates, are having cartilage as an endoskeleton. So there, let me show you the perichondrium is richly vascularized, I said, isn't it? Perichondrium is richly vascularized. So this perichondrium vascularization only supplying nourishment to the total cartilage. Total cartilage. You have to imagine that a person is in that in one place. That means whole country nourishment is coming from Delhi. Okay, so that is that kind of cartilage it is. So that means whole country is that food is provided by Delhi, the central office. But what you can see here, whole country is provided with that means a branch at the central office is there. That means in Volkmann's canal. From there, Haversian canal, small branches are there, and each Haversian canal again supplying the food to the surrounding lacunae. Okay, one office and trying to manage that so many things in case of cartilage. But little advancement you can see in case of bone, that the bone is getting from Haversian canal. Nourishment of the bone is from Haversian canal. So that particular Haversian canals are getting nourishment from Volkmann's canal. So it is comparatively much better, isn't it? Much better. So if we compare the same diagram, so use very good nourishment we have. In that way, you need to understand. Okay, so this is about the Haversian system. The Haversian system. Then after, let us see how it is given in the text. Types of bone based on the structure. The spongy bone or cancellous bone or trabecular bone. It occurs in the epiphysis and metaphysis of the long bones. It occurs in the epiphysis and metaphysis of the long bones. As I shown to you earlier, this is epiphysis and this is metaphysis. In the epiphysis and metaphysis of long bones, these spongy bones are present. Okay. Then it looks spongy and contain columns of bone called trabeculae with irregular interspaces filled with red bone marrow. That as like we have seen earlier. Let me show you once again with the irregular spaces that change of color required. So that irregular spaces and in between them the filled with red bone marrow. They are actually producing RBC. They are even the production of RBC. So as we have seen yesterday that irregular interspaces filled with red bone marrow. Now the compact bone, what we learn now, the diaphysis of a long bone is made up of compact bone. It has dense continuous lamellar matrix between periosteum and endosteum. Okay, so let me show that plain text to understand. What is lamellar matrix? There you can understand. Lamellar matrix. This is periosteum and this is endosteum. So in between them, whatever present, that is lamellar matrix. We named it as outer circumferential lamella, inner circumferential lamella, interstitial lamella. Okay, so it is this white is filled with what? Collagen fibers and calcium phosphate. Collagen fibers and calcium phosphate. Okay, so that is called bony matrix, the composition of the bone. Then the diaphysis is a part of long bone that lies in between the expanded ends. For each line we have to show that transition will go on. Transition, that means there and here I'll move, I'll rotate and roam in between. That to understand much better, that I shown the diaphysis to you earlier. This is diaphysis between the two epiphyses, or between the two metaphyses, we can say the diaphysis is present. So we located the diaphysis. Okay. In a growing bone, there is a region called metaphysis between the diaphysis and epiphysis. It consists of an epiphyseal plate formed by hyaline cartilage. It consists of epiphyseal plate formed by hyaline cartilage. We are discussing about this only. So this is hyaline cartilage. This is the growth plate actually. Growing stages only you'll find this metaphysis. So what happens after this? That it in fully grown, that you don't find epiphyseal plate. You'll find a line there actually. Only a scab, a line will find. That means the growth is completed. You don't find plate. You'll find epiphyseal line. Okay, so this kind of line is there. That means that particular person is grown already, and there is no growth possible in future. That indicates. Okay, so it helps in the elongation of the bone. In adults, it is represented by a bony epiphyseal line. That's what we said now. Diaphysis is covered by a dense connective fibrous tissue called periosteum. Periosteum made of the dense fibrous connective tissue. Diaphysis of a long bone has a hollow cavity called marrow cavity, which is lined or surrounded by endosteum. In between periosteum and endosteum, the matrix of the bone is laid down in the form of lamellae. Like will go like outer circumferential, inner circumferential, but till the time whatever we learned that we need to show in the diagram, that we need to show, this is the diagram which is explaining periosteum, irregular dense fibrous connective tissue, and endosteum, talking about endosteum, and likewise between them Haversian system is there, and this is marrow cavity. Marrow cavity is lined by endosteum only, isn't it? The inner wall, that is endosteum. Okay, so that's it. That is all about periosteum, endosteum, and marrow cavity, Haversian system. Everything is shown to you. Then next, the outer circumferential lamellae are located immediately beneath the periosteum. Inner circumferential lamellae are located around the endosteum. Chalo, rotated, moving towards that area to show that outer circumferential lamellae shown, and below the periosteum, and inner circumferential lamellae that above the endosteum. Okay, above the endosteum, outer circumferential and inner circumferential. Okay, next. So there are many Haversian systems, osteons we call, they are the units of the bone. Haversian system is also called osteon. The spaces between the Haversian system are filled with interstitial lamellae. Then Haversian system consists of Haversian Canal that run parallel to the marrow cavity. That runs parallel to the marrow cavity. If this is the bone, then if this is the bone, so this is marrow cavity. Now we are talking about the Haversian Canal. So that is running along this length. Okay, so running parallel to the marrow cavity. We have taken transverse section in the diagram. Okay, so that Haversian Canal Each Haversian system consists of a Haversian canal that runs parallel to a marrow cavity. It contains an artery and a vein and a lymphatic vessel. An artery, a vein, and a lymphatic vessel. Haversian canal is surrounded by the concentric lamellae, the small fluid-filled spaces called lacunae, provided with minute canaliculi lie in between the lamellae. The canaliculi connect the lacunae with one another and with Haversian canal. Each lacunae includes one osteocyte, inactive form of osteoblast. The cytoplasmic processes of osteocytes extend through the canaliculi and get interconnected into a network of cells and get interconnected into a network of cells. A Haversian canal and the surrounding lamellae and lacunae are collectively called Haversian system or osteon. The Haversian canals communicate with one another with the periosteum and also with the marrow cavity by a transverse oblique canal called Volkmann's canal. Nutrients and gases diffuses from the vascular supply of Haversian system. Okay, so everything is shown here along with the Volkmann's canal. So this is the Volkmann's canal we drawn. This is the Volkmann's canal, and there from there nourishment is going to the Haversian canals. From each Haversian canal, having artery, vein, lymph vessel, and nerve fiber surrounded by many concentric rings, and each concentric ring contain empty spaces called lacunae, lacunae with osteocytes, so that everything is connected. That is with the help of canaliculi. Okay, so this is what we say Haversian system, which is even called as osteon, Haversian system or osteon. So requested to read this back again and again. This is a very, very important area. Haversian system, in IP point of view, in a Neet point of view. Even. Okay, so let me close this here. That finally. On the dry weight of fully grown bone, inorganic matter constitutes about 65%, organic matter is about 35%. The major part of the inorganic matter is calcium phosphate. The calcium phosphate is present in the form of crystals of hydroxyapatite with their chemical formula, which include Ca10. Can we see? Yeah, we will take this. Ca10. Oh my God. So let me write like this. Ca10, PO4, taken 6, OH, taken twice. No, nothing, not required here actually. But which is there in our all bones that we need to know. Calcium hydroxyapatite. 85% is calcium hydroxyapatite itself. That means 85% what I mean. 65% is inorganic matter. Inorganic matter in this 65%, 85% is calcium phosphate. Remaining 15% is calcium carbonate and calcium other salts. Okay, 35% is organic. That is our collagen fibers. The organic substance is collagen fiber. So that means a bone is very strong, isn't it? The strength of the bone, the interstitial lamella of the bone, is due to the calcium phosphate. The crystals of the calcium phosphate is in the form of calcium hydroxyapatite. We can say calcium hydroxyapatite. So, okay, so finally, when bones are broken, the osteocytes are reactivated to become osteoblast and start deposition of mineral material, thus joining the fractured bone. So we learned about the osteoblast. So finally, we'll give the clearance for osteoclast also. There is another cell, osteoclast. These are the cells which are for resorption and recoiling. Resorption and recoiling. In general terms, we can say they are for the dissolution of the bone. So what is the use of dissolution? That means that what we are talking about. This is the bone. The bone will be shaped properly by dissolution itself, resorption and recoiling. Okay. And it is said to be osteoclast cells are the modified macrophages. Do you know macrophages? They are for phagocytosis. So these osteoclasts are settled macrophages in the bone. So finally, this is all about the bone and along with that Haversian system.